Hello dears, hope you all are doing good. So today we are going to discuss about the second part of Toppers NEET Olympiad Foundation course of class 9. Topic is reproduction in flowering plants. Okay, so today also we are going to discuss about single correct answer type questions. Let us see the question. Up till yesterday we have discussed only the 15 questions. So today we are continuing the question 16th one. Let us see what is the question here. Right, after fertilization, the seed coats of seeds develop from. After fertilization, what is a fertilization process? The fusion of male and female gametes within the fruit, within the flower we can observe, especially in the gynoecium, the pistil region we can observe in the ovule part. Okay, after fertilization, the seed coats of the seeds develop from the ovule, chelagia, integuments or the nucellus. He has given the options. Okay, where we can observe the fertilization process. Okay, the fertilization occurs in the female reproductive organ of a flower called as a ovary. Okay, so within the ovary we can observe multiple number of number of ovules. So within the ovule we can observe the sac like structure called as a embryo sac, right, and this is the ovule structure and this is the embryo sac. Okay, so after fertilization, the seed coats. What are the seeds? Seeds are developing from the ovules. Unfertilized ovules will be developing into the seeds. Okay, the seeds will be, normally the seeds will be seen like this. So outside to that we can observe the seed coat for protecting the cotyledons inside the seed. Okay, so during the fertilization and after fertilization, what happens? He is asking the seed coats. The seed coats of seeds are developed from which of these parts of the female reproductive organ in a flower is the question. Is that the ovule? Ovule develops into seeds. Okay, this is the wrong option. And what is the chelagia? Chelagia is a upper end region, the basal region we can observe the chelagia. So this chelagia is a string like structure. During the developmental, after the fertilization process, we can observe the formation of zygote and the secondary fertilization will be developing into the endosperm and all. So further we can observe the chelagia will be functioning as a protective layer. Okay, so here the chelagia which is acting as a intervitelline membrane region, so that acts as a balancing of the complete egg which is produced inside the ovary, right. And next one are the integuments. These are the integumentary structures. Okay, so these integumentary structures are surrounding the seed and develops as a seed coat. Yes, and the nucellus. Nucellus is also the wrong option. Why? Because nucellus is exactly seen in the ovary region. Okay, so within the ovule we can observe the nucellus. So nucellus will be developing into a perisperm and it produces the nucellus within the ovule. Within the embryo sac we can observe the developmental zygote and embryo do get the nourishment. Okay, so nourishing in the sense providing the food materials to grow the embryo as a fruit. Okay, so that is a function of the nucellus. So here the correct option is C, integuments will be developing as a seed coats surrounding the seed. Hope you all understood. Coming to the next question. What is the next question, dears? Pollination in lotus is carried out by. In a previous class we have discussed about, in some of the lotus flowers we can observe the pollination of seeds. A lotus seeds will be transferring through the surface and sometimes actually we can observe the flower, right. The flower will be just on the surface of the water body, so that the insects will be coming towards to the flower for sucking the nectar, and here we can observe the insects are helping for the pollination process for which plant? Lotus plant. Okay, so here the option is insects, not the wind, not the water, and option D is anyway it's a wrong option, right. Coming to the next question, what is pollination? by bats. Okay, so what are the bats? They are the flying mammals. So they are the omnivorous organisms. They do go for just taking the food materials from the plants and the flowers. So that is called as a malacophily, chiropterophily, entomophily and myrmecophily. Okay, so what is malacophily? It's nothing but the snail. The pollination which occurs through the snail is called as a malacophily. Okay, the word itself indicates. In the picture it is being given as a chiropterophily. Okay, the option is B. B is the correct option. Entomophily through the insects. It is the wrong option. Yes, and if it is correct, the remaining all are the wrong options, right? Next. Coming to the next question, which haploid cell forms embryo sac? Haploid means single n number of chromosomes will be observed in the cell. Okay, so which of the following haploid cell forms the embryo sac? What is the embryo sac? It's a gametophytic cell which is present inside the ovule. Female gamete called as a ovule. Okay, so here which haploid cell forms the embryo sac? Right? What are the options? Microspore mother cell, and option B is megaspore mother cell. Option C is functional megaspore, and option D is none of this. Right? So what is the first option? Which out of these is the correct option? The picture indicates megasporogenesis. Okay, so within the megasporogenesis, nothing but in the embryo sac we can observe 7 cells and 8 nuclei. Okay, so as in the embryo sac we can observe on the anterior region antipodals, and in the central region we can observe 2 nuclei. It's called as a central cell, and exactly at the bottom posterior region we can observe the egg cell and the synergids. Okay, so out of all these, which is the correct option? Okay, megaspore mother cell is the haploid cell which forms the embryo sac. Okay, so in the picture you see the nucleus archisporial cell. What forms first? The megaspore mother cell. Within the nucleus it forms first, and the functional megaspore. And next we can observe the second nucleate stage, nothing but the formation of 2 polar nuclei after the 3 mitotic cell division in the embryo sac. Okay, so later on we can observe the second and third mitotic divisions can be seen in this to form a 3 antipodal cells and 2 central cells, nothing but the polar nuclei in the central region. Polar nuclei in the central region from both the ends, and by the third division we can observe the formation of antipodals and the synergids along with the egg cell. So these are the synergids, and next one middle part is the egg cell. Yes, so out of all these, so which is acting as a formation of haploid cell which is acting as a embryo sac? Here the megaspore mother cell. So megaspore mother cell, how many nucleus we are observing over here? Only single nucleus, right? So apart from this, in the functional megaspore as it converts, it is converting into the multiple nuclei. So we can say it as a haploid. So these are the triploid in condition, and after further divisions of the mitotic cell divisions, so we will be observing this as a diploid or the triploid condition, right? So here the correct option is megaspore mother cell, not the microspore mother cell, not the functional megaspore, and option D is the wrong option, right? Next, question number 20. Let us see what is the question here. Function of guiding and attracting the pollen tube is done by, right? So what is the main concept here? Function of what? Function of the guiding and attracting and guiding of pollen tube. is done by. So what is the pollen tube? Which is germinating from the pollen grain where it is sitting on the stigma of the female reproductive organ, right? So here the pollen tube. So as the pollen tube is ready to arise into the yes, this is the pollen grain and this arises, germinates the pollen tube. This is the stigma, this is the style and this is the ovary. Yes, ovary we can say, pistil we can say, or the carpel also we can say, right? So this pollen tube will be arising into the any one of the ovules and then enters into the embryo sac within the ovule. Any one of the ovule, it fuses, okay? So what is attracting and guiding the pollen tube to reach the embryo sac itself, okay? So what are the process here? I mean, what are given over here? The egg cell, filiform apparatus, antipodal cells and the secondary nucleus. So all these are found in the embryo sac, okay? So within the embryo sac, it has to attract and it has to guide the pollen tube where it has to reach from the stigma towards to style, from style towards to the ovule. As it reaches the ovule, it enters into the embryo sac. So in the embryo sac, exactly on which part, into which part the pollen tube is penetrating, okay? So that was being maintained by the filiform apparatus, okay? The filiform apparatus will have a capacity to receive the pollen tube and the cells, the generative cells and the nuclei. The nuclei which are present in the sperms of the pollen tube is being guided and attracted by the filiform apparatus which are present in the synergids. Okay. So first of all, the synergids which contains the filiform apparatus is responsible for guiding and attracting the pollen tube into the embryo sac. So out of these options, which one will be the correct options, dear? Option B. Option A, egg cell. Egg cell participates in the first fertilization process. First fertilization process, but not in the guiding process. Okay. And coming to the antipodal cells. What are the antipodal cells? Exactly seen on the chalagial end of the ovule. Okay. So if this is the ovule, this is the chalagial end. Okay, so as this is given over here, and these are the antipodal cells. Okay, so these antipodal cells will be providing the materials for the development of embryo, zygote and the endosperm, right? And coming to the secondary nucleus, it exactly participates in the second fertilization process. Yes, this is also the wrong option. So which out of these is providing the guidance and attracting of the pollen tube? The filiform apparatus which is present in the synergids. Right? Hope you all understood. Very good. Coming to the next question. What is the next question? Largest cell of the ovule is. What is the ovule? It's a female gametophytic cell. Within that, what is the largest size he is asking, okay? As we know that the embryo sac. Yes, if it is not clear, right, this is the mature embryo sac. If we just zoom it, you can't observe it clearly, it might be, sorry, this will be the embryo sac, and within the embryo sac, we can observe the 7 cells and 8 nuclei. Yes, 3 antipodals. This is the central cell. This is the egg cell. These are the synergids. Yes. So each and every cell out of these are having only single nucleus, and out of all these the central cell which contains the two nuclei is larger in size as compared to that of the antipodals and the egg cell and also the synergids. Okay, so by the picture we will be getting to know that, and the presence of nucleus within the central cell, single nucleus or two nuclei, right? So we can observe the two nuclei because of the volume of extra nucleus which is present inside the cell, central cell. It makes the central cell size be bigger than the other cells which are present in the embryo sac. So what is the correct option? Megaspore mother cell, it's a wrong. Antipodal cells, also wrong. Central cell, as we discussed over here, option C is the correct one, and option D, size of cell variable. Size of cell might be variable, but out of all these cells, which size, right? Which kind of cell is variable in size, right? Which one is, we need to opt over here, either the egg cell or the synergids or the antipodals or the central cell. So we need to consider the extra number of nucleus which is present inside the central cell must be considered as a bigger or the largest cell in the embryo sac, right? Coming to the next question. Secondary nucleus present in the middle of embryo sac is, okay. So again we are going for the concept embryo sac. The secondary nucleus present in the middle of embryo sac. Up till now we have discussed the same thing. There the size of the cells, out of all the cells, which one is the largest one we have discussed, but here he is asking secondary nucleus present in the middle of embryo sac. What is the name of that cell? He is asking, okay. Name in the sense, sorry, condition, right? So is it a haploid in condition, diploid in condition, right? Or a haploid, or tetraploid, or a triploid in condition, he is asking, okay. Secondary nucleus present in the middle embryo sac is, okay. So middle embryo sac, right? How many? We can observe the diploid condition, okay. So diploid in the sense we can observe two nuclei, right? So first of all we can observe the diploid condition, and after fertilization what we can observe? After fertilization we can observe it is converting into a triploid. So here the correct option is diploid or a triploid one, okay. So out of these which one we need to opt? Yes, let us see here, secondary nucleus present in the middle of embryo sac, okay. So before the fertilization, it is not mentioned over here, before the fertilization it is a diploid condition, and after that it is a triploid in condition. So we need to consider option B after fertilization and C diploid in condition before the fertilization. It's not a haploid or the tetraploid condition, right? Next. Coming to the next question, what is the term used for pollination by the birds, okay. So what is the term used for the pollination by the birds, okay. So birds also helpful for pollination process, right? Are they the malacophily? We have discussed already, it is been done by the snail, right? Ornithophily might be. Chiropterophily we have discussed already, it is been done by the bats. Yes, and what is myrmecophily? By the animals. Yes, so what is the correct option? Ornithophily is the correct option. Option A, C and D are the wrong options, okay. By the birds is the ornithophily. Next, question number 24. Coming to the next question, double fertilization results in production of. Double fertilization, what is double fertilization and how it happens, right? So as the pollen tube releases the two nuclei from the sperm cells, we can observe the two nuclei will be, one will be fusing with the egg cell first of all, and the second nucleus of the sperm cell will be fusing with the central cell to form the endosperm. So double fertilization results in the production of haploid nucleus, diploid nucleus, triploid nucleus and the tetraploid nucleus, okay. Here the picture indicates sexual fusion, second sexual fusion, okay. So within this, the first fusion of male gamete is haploid in nature, and egg is also haploid in nature, and it forms diploid number of zygotes, okay. So coming to the second fusion, in the second fertilization, one male gamete, which one is that? It's the second one or the first one? It's a second sperm nucleus. Male gamete is haploid in structure, is fusing with the secondary nucleus. Secondary nucleus before the fertilization, it is considered as a diploid. And after the primary endosperm forms, when does the primary endosperm forms? Immediately after fusion, after fertilization of the second sperm cell with the polar nuclei, nothing but the central cell. So within the central cell, already we have observed the nuclei will be 2 in number, okay, 2 in number, 2n. In the secondary nucleus, we can observe the nuclei are 2, and male gamete has only single. So total how many will be forming? 3n number of nuclei in the primary endosperm, okay. So what will be the correct option over here? It's not the haploid, it's not the diploid. It might be diploid in the secondary nucleus, but when before the fertilization, this concept we have discussed already. And next one is a triploid, 3n number of chromosomes, and nothing but in the nucleus we can observe 3n number of nuclei, okay. So option C will be the correct one, and option D, tetraploid, 4 is wrong, okay, not the 2 and not even 1, right. What is the correct option? Option C will be the correct. Coming to the next question, male gametes in angiosperms are formed by the division of. Male gametes in angiosperms are formed by the division of, in the angiosperms, right. So within the angiosperms, the fruits which are formed within the seeds which are enclosed within the fruits are the angiosperms. So they might be considered as a flowering plants. So male gametes, nothing but pollen grains. What are the male gametes called as? Pollen grains, right. So these pollen grains in the angiosperms especially are formed by which kind of cell division he is asking, okay. So how many kinds of cell divisions will have? Mitotic cell division and the meiotic cell division. Mitotic and the meiotic cell division, okay. So out of these two, which one will be undergoing, and which kind of cell which is undergoing for formation of a male gamete, okay. So is that the generative cell or the vegetative cell or the microspore mother cell or the microspore, okay. So generative cell, generation, the word itself indicates, yes, it's a correct option. The generative cell which is present inside the pollen tube is responsible for formation of a male gamete, okay. So microspore mother cell and the microspore also forms in the male gametes, but these are the conditions. When do they form? For forming the pollen sac and the pollen grains, okay. So these microspores and the microspore mother cells, they do go for continuous, okay, frequent division process. The microspore mother cell will be undergoing the division process and forms the microspore by the meiotic cell division, and then we can observe this generative cell ultimately will be forming into a male gamete, okay. So option A will be the correct. Option C is wrong, sorry, B is wrong, C is wrong, and even D is also the wrong options. Hope you all understood. The figure also indicates over here, see the vegetative cell and generative cell. So during the pollen grain, when it germinates, during the traveling process, we can observe the single sperm cell will be dividing mitotically and forms 2 sperm nucleus, and next one we can observe the vegetative cell will be disappearing as it enters into the embryo sac through the synergid cells, okay. So after that, the generative cell will be responsible for fusion of the first time with the egg cell and fusion of second time with the egg, this what we say that it's a central cell. Okay, so that is the reason it is considered as a double fertilization. So here what is helping? Generative cell helps in the formation of a male gametes called pollen grains, right? Next, coming to the next question, the role of double fertilization in angiosperm is to produce. Okay, so what do they produce ultimately? Okay, the picture is given, you see, picture 1, 2 and 3. So what does it indicate? Here we can observe the egg is single number, it's nothing but a haploid. The sperm cells also, each sperm cell are haploid in nature, N, and this is also N, right? And this is a pollen tube and these are the polar nuclei. Each is N, but comparing with these remaining ones, as we observe these in the central cell, it's a diploid in nature. Okay, so after that, first we can observe the fusion of egg cell with the first sperm cell forms zygote. Okay, single N number of chromosome of the sperm cell and N number of chromosomes, nothing but the N number of nucleus which is present in the egg cell. Each of these are haploid in structures and it forms the diploid zygote. Zygote will be in a diploid condition, right? And this is the first fertilization, right? And after that we can observe the entry of the second sperm cell will be reaching towards to the central cell, and within this the two nuclei participate in the fusion fertilization process, and there we can observe the 3N number nuclei will be count 3, right? So here we can observe the 3N number of nuclei will be helping for the formation of endosperm, right? And next we can observe the formation of a fruit from the ovary, and unfertilized ovules will be developing into the seeds, and the seed coat we have discussed previously in the first concept, the first question. The integuments which are surrounding the ovules are responsible for protecting the seed, called as a protecting coats called as a seeds. Okay, and here the concept is, what is the correct option? The cotyledons? No. The endocarp is the innermost layer of the fruit. Okay, so this is also the wrong option. And the endosperm, the word itself is given over here. Ultimately it forms the endosperm. It further divides mitotically and forms the complete fruit, and the hormones is the wrong option. Hormones is completely awkward out of these options, right? And option C is the correct option, right? And coming to the next question, what is the next question? Endosperm is formed during the double fertilization. Endosperm is formed, but how does it form? During the double fertilization. With which one out of these? Okay, let us see here. Two polar nuclei and the one male gamete. One polar nuclei and one male gamete. Ovum and the male gamete. Two polar nuclei and two male gametes. Out of all these, which one will be the correct option? Okay, two polar nuclei and one male gamete. Two polar nuclei. Okay, two polar nuclei are present in central cell. Yes, where we can observe this two polar nuclei and one male gamete. He is not giving it as a first male gamete. He has described it as a one male gamete. It's a second male gamete. Okay, so this is the correct option. One polar nuclei. If it is singular one, the singular nucleus can be said. It's not a nuclei. Nuclei is a plural word. Okay, so one polar nuclei and one male gamete is the wrong option, and ovum, it's completely wrong. Right. So coming to the flowers, we can observe the gamete is the ovule, not a ovum. Okay, so ovum is the gamete of animals. Yes, so here itself within the first word we will get to know that this is a wrong option. And coming to the option D, 2 polar nuclei and 2 male gametes. That's completely wrong. The first male gamete already fuses with the egg cell and the second male gamete will be fusing with the central cell. So option A will be the correct one. Right? And coming to the next question, dears. And in angiosperms, pollen tube liberate their male gametes into central cell, antipodals, egg cell or the synergids. Okay, the pollen tube, this is a pollen tube. Here you can observe very clearly, this is the pollen tube. So as it is moving towards to the micropylar region, where is the micropyle? The entry point of the ovule towards to the embryo sac, where it is starting exactly from the synergids and the egg cell. Okay, so the pollen tube, it has to rupture its outside membrane and then it has to release the first sperm cell first of all, and then it has to fuse with the, it has to enter into the synergids. Within the synergids, we have already discussed about the filiform apparatus. It maintains, it guides the pollen tube to enter into the embryo sac. Okay, so as it enters, the filiform apparatus and the synergid cells, so they will be making the complete entry of the single sperm cell, first sperm cell to conjugate only with the, conjugate in the sense just fuse only with the egg cell. Okay, so these are being maintained. So why it helps only to enter into the egg cell? It may extend towards to the polar nuclei or the antipodals. Right? So a very great example we can take, like for example in our body, so we go for the respiration process. So as we respire, so completely can we take up the air inside the body? No, we can't. Okay, why? Because if we take complete air inside at a time, our lungs may blast. Okay, so that is being maintained by the apparatus in our body below the thoracic region called as a diaphragm. Okay, a muscular dome shaped structure will be controlling the movement of lungs. In the same process, the pollen tube, the first sperm cell has to reach the egg cell and then fuse with the egg cell. Okay, so the movement of the protrusion only up till the egg cell of the first sperm cell will be done by the, maintained by the cytoplasm and the chemicals which are present in the synergids. Okay, so it is being maintained by the synergids, not by the egg cell, not by the antipodal cells and not by the central cell. Central cell participate in the second fertilization, already we have discussed this for many times, and antipodal cells will be providing the nourishment towards to the embryo for further development into the fruit and all, and egg cell participates in the first fertilization process. And what is the leftover one is the synergids, which makes the balancing of not to go protrusion towards to the other part apart from the egg cell. Right? And what is the next question? Which one of the following character causes cross-pollination? What is cross-pollination? The transfer of pollen grains from the anther towards to the stigma of a same flower is called as a self-pollination, and the process of movement of the pollen grains from the anther towards to the stigma of a same plant, but the flower will be different. Okay, so some of the plants will be unisexual flowers. So the male flower transfers the pollen grains into the female flower. So then we can observe the female flower develops the fruit. Okay, in same species or in the different species also we can observe. But here he is asking the question, what is the reason for the cross pollination? So what is the cleistogamy, dichogamy, homogamy and the all of these? Okay, so out of all these three, cleistogamy and homogamy comes under same category. Why? Because so here the self-pollination occurs. During these conditions, what pollination occurs? Only the self-pollination occurs. How can you say? Yes. So during this condition, within this kind of condition, the male and the female organs mature at the same time. The maturation time duration will be same in this kind of conditions, so that it undergoes the self-pollination. Okay, so within the flower, so what is the dichogamy process? Excuse. The flowers might be unisexual or the bisexual. Unisexual flowers, at any cost it undergoes the cross pollination process, but coming to the bisexual flowers also sometimes we can observe the dichogamy process, nothing but the time duration of maturation of male and female gametes will be completely different. If the time duration is same, then at a time we can observe the maturation process and the self pollination occurs within the same flower. But coming to the dichogamy process, di in the sense two, means male and the female gametes will be maturing at the different times. Might be female one developing at the first time and pollen grain might be taking a lot of time to develop. Okay, so meanwhile the other flower male gamete may enter into this female one and it may pollinate. Okay, so this may take a lot of time for pollination process. So the time duration of the maturation makes the pollination cross. Okay, so within this kind of conditioned flowers, dichogamy conditioned flowers, we can observe a type of pollination called as a cross pollination. So what is the option? B, not the option A, not the option C, obviously not option D, right? Next, coming to the next question. What is the next question? Apomixis is a type of reproduction. What is apomixis? Apomixis is a type of reproduction. Okay, what kind of reproduction? That results in the development of, what does it develops? Develops a new organism without fusion of gametes, a new organism from fusion of products of gametes, a embryo from endosperm, and embryo from the nucellus. Okay, so out of all this, apomixis is also one of the process. We can say it as a parthenocarpy. What is the process called as? Parthenocarpy. Okay, so here we can observe the apomixis in the ferns, we can observe in the plants, and in some of the animals also we can observe. Okay, so apomixis we can observe the 2n number of fusion which not occurs, the new organism will be formed. It's a kind of asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction. Okay, so their asexual reproduction, what do? They just select the cells and make the fusion process in the outside the body of a female. Okay, so that condition is called as a apomixis. So obviously we will be opting only option A, right? New organism in the animals, but coming to plants we can observe seeds without fusion of the gametes. Okay, so parthenocarpy, the fruit will be formed. Okay, the fruit and some of these zygotes will be forming by the seeds. New organism from the fusion, products of the gametes. What are the products? Products might be the chromosomes, might be the nucleus. It divides and forms, and from that we are not getting a new one. Okay, so embryo from the endosperm which can be seen in the fertilization process. Which fertilization? Double fertilization. Here the concept is no fusion process, but the organism newly is been formed itself. Embryo from the nucellus. What is nucellus? It's one of the part of a ovule which nourishes the process of endosperm and the zygote to develop into a fruit and the complete fruit. Okay, so embryo from the nucellus is also the wrong option. Option C is also wrong and option B is also wrong. What is the correct option? New organism without fusion of the gametes, and that apomixis is also considered as a parthenocarpy, one of the asexual mode of reproduction, right? Hope you all enjoyed the video. Thank you so much. We'll meet in the next class.